Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome at the first masterclass organized by Wanderful.stream. Before we start, we have two practical announcements to make. This webinar is being recorded and we will share the recordings with you afterwards. You can also find a Q&A section in the bottom of the webinar screen. So we invite you to post your questions during all the presentations. At the end of the webinar, we will have time to answer all your questions. Please also indicate to whom you address your questions. That makes it easier for us. Okay, let's start. Welcome at this webinar, Masterclass Textile, organized by all project partners of the Interreg project Wanderful.stream. This is the first masterclass in a series. We will have topics of plastic, packaging, construction in the next months also coming up, and we will keep you informed about this. But today we will talk about textile and more specifically the circular design, technology and business approaches in the textile sector. The program for today, I will start with a short introduction on Wanderful.stream, the project, and then my colleague Tom Janssen will give a short state of the art of the textile industry in the EU region. What are the current circular approaches in design, business and technology. Then we have four experts. Tanja Meyer from Bio-Based Europe pilot plant will talk about bio-based materials in textile and fishing gear. Filip Lietaer from Belconfect will explain how they make their working textile more circular. Eva Engelen from Honest will show us how jeans can be designed in a circular way, and also the technology and business models that are circular. And then Marc Meijers from DenimX will show us how jeans fibers can be given a second life. So we welcome you from the Interreg project Wanderful.stream. Our aim is to valorize residual streams of SMEs in the EU region, and I will show you a short introduction video.
Makers, we all make quality products. From a raw material to an end product, the whole production chain works as efficiently as possible. In a circular economy, we want to work on smarter chains. To do so, reuse is essential, recycling raw materials as well as seeing the value in waste streams. Your company's waste might become a resource for a whole new product. Therefore, we present Wanderful.stream, an Interreg project in the Meuse-Rhine-Euro region, which allows us to get to know companies and their waste streams and map them out, because all these materials can spark new ideas. Wanderful.stream connects small and medium-sized companies with designers, engineers and business developers in order to turn waste products into new materials and applications. Something that is useless to you becomes useful again, and it's win-win for everyone. Although your waste flow may seem like a trivial matter, it could matter to others. Let's work together. Visit www.wanderful.stream for more information.
So the goal of our project is to develop prototypes using residual streams of SMEs in the EU region, valorizing these residual streams and coming up with high value alternatives for these waste streams. And by this, preventing actual valuable resources to end up in the landfill or incineration. To do this, we work closely together with designers, technology experts, and business developers. And this multidisciplinary approach is very important. And as you all probably know, in circular economy, collaboration throughout the whole value chain is key issue. So that's why we really focus on this and we incorporate this in our project. Now, does it work? How can you participate in the project? The first step of the project is that we want to get to know the SMEs in the region and what are the waste streams they are dealing with at the moment. And for this, we have a survey, and I already invite all SMEs to fill in this survey so they can participate in our circle. As you can see here, this is the project cycle. So from these surveys, we go to more in-depth needs analysis. And once we have collected these, we translate them in challenges that will be addressed in boot camps. In the boot camps, students and professional designers and experts will tackle the challenges and come up with innovative solutions for the waste streams of the companies. Out of these innovative concepts, the project consortium will select some concepts, and these concepts will be further developed into prototypes during the innovation tracks. Now, what are these innovation tracks? We are working with the SME, and we combine them with technology experts, designers, and business developers to, in collaboration, co-create new prototypes from the residual streams. This expertise can count up to €20,000. We provide it from the project, so participation from the SME is free, and they can join the project and have the benefit of this expertise. As we know, small and medium-sized companies often don't have the time, the resources, the expertise to do this innovation themselves, and that is the support we are offering. All these wonderful experts will be working on your challenges. We do this in 2 cycles, so the project is during 2.5 years, and we have 2 cycles. Each innovation track is lasting 9 months. Today, we are in the start of the first cycle. The first innovation tracks have started. They started in March and they will run until November. And in the same time, we started the second cycle. So in January, we launched an open call for SMEs to participate. And actually all SMEs can join us. By the end of the summer, we want to have all the needs analysis, and we are organizing boot camps in October, and the next innovation cycle will start in November and run then until November 22. So we have 10 tracks working today, and in total we are aiming for 24 innovation tracks and prototypes. So there is space for new SMEs to join us. If you are an SME and you have a waste stream and you want to know what opportunities there are, you can fill in the light survey on our website. And also a call for all experts in the region who are interested in circular economy to register on our website on the mapping tool, because besides the innovation tracks, we also want to build up a community for circular economy in the region. And through our mapping tool, you can find interesting profiles and contact experts or other companies to start working together. So join us today. If you have any questions, you can find my contact details here, and we are looking forward to work with you.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, hello everyone. We have written a paper Okay, we have written a paper around the circular economy in the textile sector, which you can find on our website. This gives an overview of the current situation, the problems, the needs, the opportunities in the textile sector with regard to the circular economy. As Sara mentioned, it is part of a series of publications and masterclasses that is on different waste streams in the region. Okay, the intention is not to be all-encompassing. We are not the experts, but to be a source of inspiration for all SMEs, designers, technologists, and users with a heart of textiles. Now, what is the current situation? The textile sector at the moment mainly operates in a linear way. So it is a take, make, use, and reuse, and then a waste model at the moment, unfortunately. I don't want to be too pessimistic and gloomy because a lot of efforts are being taken by different companies already to work towards a more recycling economy and a circular economy system. However, at the moment, we see that in terms of recycling, for example, only 1% of clothing at the moment is recycled into new clothing. So a lot of work is still to be done. In terms of numbers, in the European Union, citizens like you and me on average use 26 kilograms of textile per year. And each year, 11.3 kilograms is wasted per person. To produce this 26 kilograms, you need 1.3 tons of primary raw materials, on average 100,000 liters of water, and 700 square meters of land. So you can imagine that this has a big impact on the environment and on the climate. Now, this graph shows you the clothing consumption and production worldwide. And we see in the last 2 decades that clothing consumption and production has actually doubled. This is the dark blue. While clothing utilization, this is the light blue, has dropped worldwide. Now, why is this? Well, this is mainly due to the fast fashion business model that is in operation right now, and that has emerged since the 1980s. Clothing companies have reduced their production costs, for example, by moving away the production to low-cost countries. And this way, consumer prices have dropped drastically. Now, the clothing companies also increased their number of annual collections from 2 a year to more than 5 per year. So also the variety in clothes has increased, which resulted in a big increase in consumption and buying of clothes. On average, people have more clothes and buy more clothes than they actually need. Now, what is the influence on the environment and on society? Well, this figure shows you the global material flows for clothing in 2015. Now, for the production of clothes, 97% of the feedstock is from virgin origin. Only a few percent comes from recycled materials, 2% of which come actually from other industries, and only 1% comes from closed-loop recycling of clothing. Annual production of fibers is almost 53 million tons, and during production, already 12% is lost, mainly due to offcuts and overstock liquidation. Also, during the use and reuse of clothing, while washing and drying, 500,000 tons of microfibers are leached into the rivers and oceans and causing dramatic effects on the ecosystems and eventually also in our food chain. After use, 2% of clothing is actually lost during collection and processing, and 12% of it is recycled in lower value applications like insulation materials and wiping cloth. And as mentioned, only 1% is reused in new clothing. So of the total waste, 73% actually is landfilled or incinerated. You can imagine As this is one of the reasons why the textile industry is the second biggest polluting industry in the world at the moment after oil. The linear business model in the textile industry leads to not only overproduction, but also overconsumption, to a depletion of natural resources. It puts pressure on ecosystems due to the pollution, and it's also associated with negative social impact. And last but not least, an ever-increasing amount of waste. Now, if you look at all phases of the textile sector, if you group everything together, if you look at greenhouse gas emissions alone, this is bigger than all international air and maritime traffic combined. Okay, it all starts with fibers. A lot of different fibers are used in textiles. You have the natural fibers, mainly animal-based, for example, wool and silk, but also plant-based, cellulosic, so mainly cotton, but also bamboo, flax, hemp is used a lot. And you have the man-made fibers. The man-made fibers, you all know, it's the synthetic polymers, so it's plastics, but also there are natural polymers. Now, it's the synthetic polymers that are used most. So 63% of fibers used today are actually plastic fibers of different origin, but it's all from a non-renewable feedstock source, namely oil. And this trend is still growing. So this number is still growing at the moment. The other big part is taken up by cotton. On the left, it's 26%, but this also has its drawbacks. Not only the land usage needed, but also 10% of total global pesticides is used in the production of cotton, 25% of global insecticide use, and 2.5% of total global water consumption. So it is a mixed message. 11% of the fibers are from other origin, and more details you can find in our paper. Now, also blends of fibers are used, are mixed together in the same yarn, and this makes it even more complicated. So when making a fabric, it not only has to be fit for purpose, but also the environmental impact has to be taken into account. And to do this, an initiative in 2013, namely Made By, has made a ranking of potential fibers with lower environmental impact. And here you see a list, the top list. And there you can see it's mainly recycled natural fibers like recycled cotton or recycled wool, but also recycled synthetic fibers like recycled nylon and polyester. On the other hand, also organically grown natural fibers like organic hemp, flax, and cotton are on the top of the list. Now, since 2013, already also new fibers have come into the market and are in development. For example, man-made cellulose fibers like lyocell, but also bio-based synthetic fibers are being developed. And I think in the next presentation, Tanja Meyer will give an example of this. Also, protein fibers and new sources of natural textile fibers are being looked into. Okay, these fibers are then used for yarn spinning. The yarn is then used for weaving into fabric, and this fabric can then be used actually in the production of garments, clothing. And all of this causes waste. During this process, also a lot of harmful chemicals are used, such as solvents, dyes, heavy metals, and surfactants. It also uses a significant amount of energy and water, and a lot of waste and microplastics are produced along the way. And as I mentioned, it also has a negative social impact because of this production mostly is done in low-cost countries. In many cases, working conditions are unsafe, toxic, and even child labor is used. I think everyone remembers the big disaster of Rana Plaza in 2013, where 1,200 workers died when the building collapsed around them. Okay. Luckily, a lot of efforts are already being done to work towards a more sustainable production process. For example, the banning of toxic chemicals, development and use of less harmful textile chemicals and technologies, but also the use of more natural and biodegradable dyes. Also, development and use of low energy and low water consuming technologies. And last but not least, replacing traditional cutting methods with advanced technologies and processes to minimize cutting waste and microplastic leaching. Now, what about the earning models? The current fast fashion business model is not sustainable in the long run. I think every one of us realizes this. Below you see a figure that indicates the reasons why clothing garments are disposed of. This was the UK 2016. In 42% of cases because it didn't fit anymore, 26% of cases because they didn't like it anymore, 7% of cases they didn't need it anymore, and only in 19% of the cases the clothing is actually damaged, stained, or worn out. So to shift from this mentality to a circular economy, we need to shift the perception of clothing from being a disposable item to being a more durable product. So clothing utilization needs to go up. People have calculated that if the number of times a garment is worn were to be doubled on average, that the greenhouse gas emissions would already be reduced by 44%. So how do we do this? Well, we need to transform the way clothes are designed, sold, and used to break free from their increasingly disposable nature. For example, by designing and producing clothes that are of higher quality and which are more durable, easy to maintain, and easy to repair. We need also new business models and the necessary policy measures to stimulate these models. On the other side, we need to boost consumer awareness and also a shift in consumer behavior to embrace these new models and to stimulate the longer use and reuse, maintenance and repair of clothing. Also, we need new logistic services to ease the collection and redistribution of clothing. Now, different type of models have been developed, and some of them are already in use. One of them is the highly durable clothes model, which speaks for itself. So producing highly durable clothes that last for a long time and can be easily maintained and repaired. Second one is short-term rental model, and this is more suitable, for example, for kids clothing, baby clothing, but also for one-off events where we only need clothing for one time a year, for example. Also, rental subscription models are in the works, especially for people that want variety, that want to change, that want to follow the fashion trends, for example. And last but not least, we have the resale model, which is already partly in place. Now, in terms of earnings model, it's not a case of one fits all. We need all of them and different subtypes and mixtures of these. In a new textile economy, a range of options would be on offer to match the various consumer types. Every consumer is different. For example, me, that's this one, the bottom left. I try to avoid shopping for clothes as much as I can. I don't follow trends. So for me, the models like highly durable clothes would be most suited in combination with short-term rental for one-off occasions, for example. But for other types of consumers, other mixtures of the business models would be more suitable. So we need all of them, not one of them, to replace the fast fashion business model. Now, what about recycling? So end of life. So in purple here, you have the production phase, and then in green, it's more the user phase. After end of use, actually only 20% at the moment of clothing is collected separately. And this is then sorted. So 80% is actually going direct towards waste, landfill, and incineration. Of this 20% that is collected, 70% of the sorting, 70% is still reusable as clothing. But unfortunately, due to the lack of domestic demand, 70% of this is actually exported to continents like Africa and Asia. There they are used, the clothing, but then eventually it is in most cases landfilled. And this because the infrastructure to collect and recycle clothes simply in most cases that does not exist in these countries. On the other hand, 20% is suitable for recycling. Both post-consumer waste, but also post-production waste can be recycled. There are different types of recycling techniques. Fabric recycling, so this can be reused, the fabric and clothing production. But there's also fiber recycling at the level of fibers, mechanical polymer recycling, and even at the level of monomer recycling already exists. More details of this you can find in the paper. But what are the facts in terms of recycling? Unfortunately, worldwide, no clothing-to-clothing recycling operations exist at scale. So only 1% of clothing is recycled to make materials that are produced in new clothing. 1%. Most of the recycling is cascaded down towards lower value applications. And only 3% recycled feedstock is used in production of clothing. 2% of which is coming from other sectors, like plastic PET bottles, for example. Now, why is this? Well, there are many reasons, but the main reasons are an inconsistent supply. So the collection systems and the logistics service are not suited already to supply enough and consistently this clothing. There is a disconnect between clothing design, and the recycling processes. For example, if you use blends of fibers in the same fabric or yarn, this is very difficult to separate eventually. Also, when mixed materials are used, there is a little know-how on separating mixed textile materials. And then I mean, for example, a garment where zippers, buttons, plastics, metals, everything is combined and stitched together. This is very difficult to separate. Also, the identification of the materials in fabric is something that is very difficult at the moment still. There are also technological limitations. Many technologies are still in the R&D phase, or they are still small scale. Many of them are non-profitable, and some of them also produce lower quality materials. So in general, so the collection, the sorting, and the recycling of textile at this moment is still very costly, and there is a lack of cost competitiveness compared to virgin feedstock. So virgin feedstock is in most cases still cheaper than recycled materials. And this also causes a lack of demand from the textile producers to use these recycled materials, of course. Okay, to conclude, well, there's no single solution to the problem. Changes are needed across the whole chain to enable a shift towards a sustainable and circular textile economy. If you see at the bottom, I will start here. We have to make effective use of resources and move to renewable inputs. So to produce clothes, we need to start from renewable sourced feedstock and recycled materials. During production, we have to phase out substances of concern and eliminate as much as possible the microfibers. We also need to increase clothing utilization. As I mentioned, designers need to take this into account and need to design more higher quality clothing, which are more durable, easy to maintain, and easy to repair. We also need more altered business model, earnings models, and we need a shift, of course, also in consumer behavior that they utilize the clothes longer and more. And eventually, of course, we need a radically improved collection system and recycling system to recycle the materials as much as possible. And only if this all works together, we can get to a more circular economy in the textile sector. If you want to know more or want to get inspired, first of all, the top paper is from us. So here we give, this is interactive, and here we give more than 200 inspirational examples within the EMR region. Also, Flanders Circular and Flanders DC have made a website called Close the Loop, which is a guide towards a circular fashion industry. And this gives a lot of tips and tricks for people who want to start on this. And if you want to dig deeper, please look at two reports. One is from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. This is very nice. And also Vito has written 2 reports recently on this. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the next presentations.
Hi, this is Tanja Meyer from Biobase Europe Pilot Plant in Belgium, Ghent, which is the coordinating facility for the Glaucost project. And I'm happy to be here today in your masterclass and presenting the project. So Glaucost is an international project funded by the European Commission and the bio-based industries joint undertaking that invests 4.1 million euro in a 4-year project to drastically diminish ocean plastic pollution. Now, actually a trivia question for you in the beginning. What or who is Glaucost? So Glaucost is actually the Greek sea god of fishermen. He was commonly believed to protect the ocean. And this is also exactly the ambition of this project. So Glaucost project had started its activities last year in June and is developing innovative alternatives for textiles to reduce the carbon and plastic footprint. Glaucost envisaged 2 application areas, the clothing and the fishing gear industry. The consortium consists of 14 partners, including industry partners from the clothing and fishing gear industry as producers for the fiber production, scale-up, prototyping, and plastic architecture facilities, research facilities, LCA partners, and stakeholder associations. This consortium covers the whole value chain, from turning the waste stream into building block and the building block into polymers and yarn. And it also checks the end-of-life solutions. Relevant stakeholders are already on board, such as the European Association of Rope, Twine and Netting Manufacturers, Eurocode, and the Association of the German Sporting Goods Industry, BSI. Eurocode is the only European cluster for the fishing gear industry. And in addition, one of their members, Van Belen Group, is also partner in Glaukos. BSI members include large enterprises such as Adidas and Puma, but also small and medium enterprises such as Faude. From a technical point of view, Glaukos will mitigate microplastic pollution by increasing the biodegradation rate of materials compared to conventional microplastics. Glaukos will also enhance material sustainability performance, such as technical performance and durability, to ensure the effective and long-term use of the textile products. Glaukos will also boost the biorecycling potential by developing compatible recycling biocatalysts. And it will also develop eco-friendly textile products with increased bio-based content. So all in all, Glaukos really aims to redesign the life cycle of clothing and the fishing gear industry. From a non-technical point of view, Glaukos will engage stakeholders across the textile industry to match this technical performance to the end user requirements. How are we going to do that? So first of all, by setting up a stakeholder lab to facilitate the interaction between users, partners and relevant stakeholders in relation to the end user requirements and also the policy. Also by communicating with the broader public, as well as specific thematic communities. And Glaukos will also enhance the framework for sustainable innovation in the textile industry. Especially important is the transfer of the stakeholder lab outcomes into actionable knowledge to inform the different stakeholders about the activities that are going on within the Glaukos project. So we really, within the Glaucost project, need to ensure that the stakeholder labs effectively provide the necessary contributions for the different Glaucost activities. So the first step was actually to involve all the different partners in an exercise to identify what type of information provided by these stakeholders might then feed back the different activities and form the task of the project. In the following, I will share with you some of the identified challenges. So there's first one, feedstock related challenges. So are there actually any requirements on the substrate for building block production? What is the relevance of bio-based versus oil-based? What about a green bonus? Secondly, the technical scientific challenges for polymer development. Thirdly, utility performance challenges. What is about information on required properties? Let's say performance versus biodegradation. A fourth challenge, certification and standard related challenges. Which standards actually comply with the different research activities and which one are needed to comply with? Also to clarify what certification and legislation of biodegradability of fibers need to take into account over, let's say, more than 1 year, but then actually less than 5 years. Also to involve standardization bodies such as DEN. A fifth challenge is the sustainability, eco-design, LCA, and end-of-life challenges. So what are the requirements for the validation on end-of-life solutions? How to reconcile the performance and end-of-life? Let's say the biodegradability. And what about the know-how of the end-of-life practices? Is this going to be followed by other actors? Which indicators do we need to use to measure sustainability and circularity? And the last challenge is about market exploitation and communication. So how to actually communicate or address these hot questions, these hot potato questions. Let's say biodegradability versus recycling again. So Glaukos really should facilitate the exchange of good practices and advice on effective communication on these ones. So with whom else should we actually get in touch with? And also for later on how to best exploit the Glaukos technical results. So far, we've been in contact with, let's say over 200 stakeholders in general, and we are in more active contact with the 70 of them because they are actually participated in our first stakeholder lab workshop. And I would like to say a couple of words about this workshop. So it took place beginning of March, originally foreseen, of course, in person, but this time online. So we managed to have 2 parallel discussions on the clothing and fishing gear. And the main topic was, biopolymers eco-design to address sustainability challenges for the ocean's protection. So as I said, 70 participants were present, and they were involving the representatives of the credible helix structure. So we actually had participants, over 50% participants coming from a business area, but also with 1/3 researchers and people from academia were present. And the rest was, let's say, on civil society and policymakers. So there will be a public deliverable written on this, which will be published in May. And it will contain the analysis and the recommendations for Glaukos activities. The integration actually with the stakeholders are very crucial for this project, as I explained before. So there will be a lot of future activities going on. The first one is that there will be also, let's say, a semi-public report that will only be sent to the workshop participants, but also to actively interested stakeholders. There will be some following up interviews and individual meetings taking place in May and June, because we actually want to have more detailed information on the outcomes And as you can imagine, it was not possible to go too much in detail on the discussion level with several individuals when you have to hold an online workshop with 70 participants. So we are really going to follow up on individual cases. Glaukos will also follow up on other projects and similar initiatives. And also, of course, more relevant stakeholders are welcome and can still join the stakeholder lab. In the second and third year, there are more workshops planned where we want to invite all the stakeholders to come together and provide them a discussion forum. And of course, Glaukos is also actively checking if we can find interactive sessions in different types of events that we can co-organize. So it's still possible to become a stakeholder. So if you're now curious about the different activities within Glaukos, then please stay connected with us in the different channels and follow the Glaukos activities, for example, on the website, but also on Twitter and LinkedIn. And as I said before, there's a format on the website and you can leave your contact details so that you can also become a stakeholder in the Glaukos project. Again, in a nutshell, Glaukos will develop eco-designed fishing gear and clothing and scale up its production process. Let's say all the way from renewable feedstock to textile prototype and ending with 2 end-of-life solutions, biodegradation and biorecycling. So that is for my side and the Glaukos side, and I'm here for any question you might have. Thank you.
Hello everybody and welcome to this masterclass about the itinerary towards more circular textiles. My name is Filip Lietaer. I'm Managing Director of Belconfect, specialized in safety garments. Thanks also to the Wanderful.stream team for giving me the opportunity to inform you how an SME like Belconfect is taking part of a broader movement towards more sustainable textiles. Who is Belconfect? We design and manufacture functional and high quality work and safety garments with focus on custom-made developments. And we strive for continuous improvement by investing in knowledge, design, operational excellence, and sustainability. In this presentation, well, you have received a short introduction on Belconfect, but I will tell you more about our durability strategy, give you some practical examples and some recommendations. As we are in a project market, our customers are mainly large industrial companies, institutional organizations, tenders, and industrial laundries. We develop, as you can see on the pictures, in the styling of the customer, taking into account their proper risk assessment and the required European safety standards. During the past 6 to 8 years, we have steadily set up our sustainability strategy with focus on these 4 elements, which I will illustrate more in detail in the next slides. The most important one and the highlight of this presentation is the right sourcing and the circular thinking. It always starts with the demand from the market, and from 2015 onwards, we noticed that the first inquiries, mainly in tenders for end-of-life solutions in workwear, were popping up. That's how we contacted the company Van Ede, who are our neighbors here in the industrial estate, and they had already set up a recycling concept for the end-of-life issues of the costumes of Air France pilots. It's upon this concept that Rivitex was developed. More info will follow. In 2018, we carried out a circularity scan analyzing our raw material chain and how we could set up a more circular-oriented business strategy. This resulted in actions to reduce the fabric waste after cutting and to actively propose more sustainable solutions to our customers. In 2019, Belconfect was part of the Be Aware project, aiming at creating more transparency and traceability in our value chain. In this exercise, we compared two different supply chains, one European with sustainable fabric and one Asian with virgin content fabrics. The calculation of the ecological footprint through the eco chain was very much in favor of the European fabric with the recycled content such as tencel. In 2020, we signed up for the Green Deal Wallonia, which is comparable to the Green Deal Vlaanderen, but due to COVID, things got delayed, but this project is now relaunched full. We also participated in other initiatives, of which I just picked out some of the most interesting ones. In 2018, there was Rivitex, resulting in a fabric made by Utexbel called Dr. Green, containing at least 25% of end-of-life clothing coming from the medical and the health sector. CircleTex is a project to collect on industrial scale unsold products, textile waste, and end-of-life garments. It's comparable to what we know as BEBAT to collect batteries, and CircleTex could give the recycling industry on textiles a real boost. DeForce Green is our own created label, and I will give you more information in a concrete example later on. And this year we signed up with ELI, which is a digital ecosystem connecting players from different disciplines on the topic of sustainable textiles. The second pillar is our social responsibility and sustainability within our own company. But since this is not the scope of the presentation, I will not go deeper into this matter. Just resuming that we undertake efforts to improve the working conditions in our subcontractors, mainly in Tunisia, Turkey, and Asia, and that we also have a program to reduce our own CO2 footprint. Finally, it's important to follow up and communicate to your stakeholders about your sustainable efforts. Most important communication tools for us are EcoVadis, which is a very interesting platform for companies wanting to measure their sustainability rating. We also have our 2-yearly durability report. We have done a sustainability scan according to the ISO 26000 guidance. And every year, Fair Wear Foundation does a brand performance check, and we also have to bring out our social report. All of these can be found back on our website. Now, I would like to tell you more about two concepts, an old one and a new one, that we have put in the market. The idea is to show that during the last couple of years, there has been a positive switch towards more circular workwear. We start with Rivitex, where the challenge was to find a better end-of-life solution than the incinerator. Secondly, to find a solution for sensitive workwear with Insignia. We talk 2016 here and are full in the period of the terroristic attacks. So together with our neighbors Van Hede Waste Management, we created the Rivitex Concept. The concept was to find a higher level of recycling end-of-life workwear. Therefore, we installed special containers where the worn garments could be thrown in. These were then collected and sorted by Van Hede and processed in their factory. The process in itself was shredding the garments, removing the metals and the hard parts, and obtaining a fairly homogeneous ground textile that was further processed into pallets to replace fossil fuels and padding for furniture. Rivitex did not bring the success we've expected. This was mainly due to the extra costs for collecting and transforming the garments, which had to be calculated into the price. And as there was no legal framework to oblige companies to look for sustainable solutions, this didn't push companies to invest in Rivitex. Conclusion, it did work for sensitive workwear, like police or security. Van Hede also encountered that shredding of blended yarns, soiled clothing, and the lack of critical volume to process these garments on an industrial scale was a problem. However, for Belconfect, this was our first attempt to present an end-of-life concept to the market, of which we learned a lot. It helped us to look further for more sustainable solutions. The second example is more recently developed and is called D-Force Green. It is a good example of the value chain collaboration and transparency from customer to raw material and vice versa. Also here, it starts with the demand from the market. Our customer, Kringloopwinkel, wanted a new workwear with a high circular content. Of course, this also suits their business philosophy. The chain collaboration worked excellent. So we have the customer, Kringloopwinkel, we have the CMT company, Belconfect, we have a fabric manufacturer, Optex, we had a yarn called Hack Your Jeans, and we have a spinning company making fibers out of post-consumer denim. So, and as we see here, the idea is to have a looped circle. So how did it work practically? The European Spinning Group collects the post-consumer denim, shreds it into fibers, and spins the fibers into the ESG green yarns by blending them with other ecological fibers such as tencel or post-consumer recycled polyester. The weaving of the fibers was done in Poland, and the fabric with Hack Your Jeans content was then used for the workwear designed by and manufactured by Belconfect in consultation with the customer Kringloopwinkel. During this project, we also made a comparative calculation with 3 different fabrics. 2 fabrics with sustainable content and 1 fabric with virgin polycotton content. The results for the fabric with post-consumer recycled denim were very satisfying. As you can see on this chart, the difference in total cost for the fabric was very close to the one of the virgin material, 31.9 compared to 29.6. Also within the end user sales price, we found out that the difference was only 3.7% compared to the virgin material polycotton. However, for the Tenkate Eco Green, there was a difference of 14%. But anyhow, the customer has a much more sustainable product for 3.7% higher price, but the gain is definitely in the total cost of ownership. So to finish my presentation, I would like to end with some recommendations, saying to you that in sustainability, you never walk alone, meaning that if you check within your own value chain, you will definitely find a very interesting concepts that you can apply. Like in our case, there is Rivitex and Where to Go, which are 2 concepts for yarn, sustainable yarn. Rely on experienced consultants, especially as SME, we have limited resources to employ own people for that. So we rely on specialists, and in our case, that was Studio D and Inventus. Contact your federation or federations, in our case, Crea Moda and FableSafe. They have a lot of knowledge and they do a lot of efforts on sustainable matters. Participate also in seminars and events like, for example, OVAN or Flanders DC, and there are many others, so forgive me if I forget some of them. Set up your own viable concept or label, like we did with D-Force Green, because that encourages the whole company to develop this private label furthermore. Co-create inside, outside your sector. like we did with Rivitex. And remember that sustainability is a strategic decision, must be top down in every organization. Publish your own sustainability reports and assessments, and be transparent in your communication. However, be aware that there are also issues to overcome. And if we look at safety workwear for circularity, it's a fact that durable is not always circular. It demands a lot of technical and logistical solutions to recycle workwear. The question is also, are these options economically viable? And we must really in the future create a critical mass to develop this industry. Another aspect is eco-design, which is not always easy to match with the customer's requirements. Like for example, on this picture, you see a multi-pocket high visibility with a trouser with reflective striping, which is flame retardant. And that is practically at this stage impossible to recycle. The impact on the final product, if you choose bio-based or recycled yarns, that might influence safety, comfort, lifespan, and number of industrial washes. Organizational, if you want to set up maintenance or a repair shop, it requires also logistics and especially also skilled personnel who can repair this workwear. And it's not easy to find. And be aware of greenwashing and circular marketing concepts. So I would like to thank you for your attention and say, let's work together towards more sustainable and circular workwear.
Good afternoon, my name is Eva Engelen and I'm very excited to be sharing with you today the story of Honest. I'll be telling you a bit more about how we got to where we are today, why we are here, and most importantly, why we believe that circularity is the future. First, I would like to start off with a couple of questions. Firstly being, would you waste 9 years of drinking water? Would you throw a plastic bottle straight into the ocean? Or would you spray pesticides straight onto your skin? Probably not, right? Well, unfortunately, you're unconsciously doing it. Maybe even right now, by wearing traditional conventional jeans. Conventional jeans, or jeans in general, are immensely popular. It's estimated that we have around an average of 7 pairs of jeans in our closet. But unfortunately, jeans are also very, very polluting. And why is that? Well, the main ingredient of jeans is cotton, and it's mainly grown in monoculture, and it uses a lot, or it requires a lot of pesticides. And next to that, it uses a lot, or it requires a lot of water to be grown, and also throughout the other phases of the production of jeans, a lot of water is needed. Adding up to around 7,000 to 8,000 liters of water that is needed to produce a single pair of jeans. Next to that, a lot of fiber, fabric, and garment production is taking place in Africa or Southeast Asia. And unfortunately, the majority of the people who make your clothes are still not receiving a living wage. And the work conditions they're working in, they are too often still unhealthy, unfair, and unsafe. Next to that, a lot of chemicals are needed throughout the different stages of production to produce a classical traditional pair of jeans, such as, for example, PP spray and sandblasting that have been linked to lung cancer. The classic pair of jeans often has stretch, and that results in a synthetic fiber being blended in with a natural fiber. And often also yarns are coated with a plastic coating to make it easier to weave them. And throughout these processes, 5 to 15 grams of plastic are added on top of the jeans, which will then be released through laundry, both in the factory and at home, contributing to the microplastic pollution. And the majority of clothing, so also jeans that we can find in the shops today, they are not produced or designed for a circular life. They are produced for a linear life, where the end of life is either landfill or incineration. And to indicate the size of this problem, every second a garbage truck full of textiles is being landfilled or burned. And that's where we come in. We saw all those problems, all those issues, and we decided that it's time for a new approach, a circular approach. We believe that feeling good is as important as doing good, and therefore we produce clothing and jeans that has nothing to hide. Over the last 3 years, we've developed the world's most sustainable jeans, which has been one of the hardest ecological nuts to crack, and we keep on innovating to stay on top of things. Here are the details of our circular production process, which all starts with harvesting old jeans that have been worn, and we do this in Belgium with the collaboration of the Kringwinkel. And the Kringwinkel, they will sort the jeans for us based on quality. If the jeans is still in good quality, they will just be given a second life through their retail social economy shops. If the jeans are not in good quality anymore, they will be downcycled if there's a very high percentage of synthetic fibers, or there's oil stains, or for example paint stains. These jeans will be downcycled because we cannot use them in our recycling process. And the remainder of that sorting process is then the input of our recycling process. So those jeans will go to Germany, where all the metal elements will be removed with magnets, and the jeans will be processed back to recycled cotton fibers. These fibers will then come back to Belgium, where they will be blended with tencel, and tencel is a fiber coming from eucalyptus. And European Spinning Group, they are our spinning partner. They will blend these two fibers and spin them into a yarn. This yarn will then go to Italy, where it will be dyed with electricity. This is a very fancy and innovative technique to avoid using a lot of chemicals and water in this production process. So the yarns will be dyed with electricity, and they will be woven into a fabric. When the fabric's finished, we move into the circular design phase. And because we are using old jeans also from other brands to create recycled cotton, we have seen all the elements that are actually limiting or making the recycling at scale impossible. And we like to call them design mistakes. For example, what is a design mistake in jeans? It's the metal rivets. It is the percentage of elastan or polyester synthetic fibers in the fabric. It is the leather back patch on the back of the jeans. It is the polyester labels on the inside of the jeans, etc., etc. And seeing all those design mistakes in action on those jeans that we collect, we have completely revolutionized and circularized the design of a classical pair of jeans. So how are Honest jeans different? Well, we don't have any polyester labels. We print all the information on the inside of the pockets. Our buttons are unscrewable. The back label is made from Yacon. It's a natural material, and there's no synthetic fibers in the fabric. So the whole Honest jeans can be recycled within the same recycling process very easily. When the jeans has been designed in a circular way, the fabric will go to Portugal, where our highly skilled colleagues will sew the jeans or transform the fabric into a pair of jeans. After which they will be washed using a lot of innovative techniques, allowing us to avoid the use of toxic chemicals and avoid to use a lot of water. Then when the jeans are ready, they will come back to Belgium, and whoever would like to wear the jeans, they will start wearing them after they've bought the jeans from us for 135 euros. During the wear of the jeans, during the use phase, let's say, they can benefit from a repair service. But then if eventually they no longer want to wear their jeans, they can return them back to us and receive a 50 euros deposit or a 50 euros voucher on their next purchase. We will then recycle those jeans back into our recycling, or we will take them back into our circular production process, which is very easy, of course, because we have made that easy by design. So coming from that circular supply chain, I will also show you a quick video. Let's see if it works. Yes, highlighting the different stages of production, which will then make everything, of course, way more clear for you. So first you'll see all jeans being sorted based on quality. Then they will be shredded into smaller pieces. They will be spun into a yarn, which will then be dyed with electricity, as I indicated. Then the yarns will be woven into a fabric, which you can see here. The fabric will be cut into the different panels, after which it will be sewn together. It will go through the laundry to create the different shades of blue, and that's the last and final step of the production process, of course. So coming from the production process, we've been able to to obtain quite remarkable results. Compared with a classical or conventional pair of jeans, our jeans contain 56% recycled cotton. In all of them, we have 56% recycled cotton. Compared to a conventional pair of jeans, they emit 67% less CO2. They're fully recyclable, so we can recycle them in one recycling stream. They save 6,639 liters of water, which is a reduction of 95% compared with the standard, the industry standard, and they're fully made in the EU. And this is very important to us. Too often, clothing is still produced in unsafe, unhealthy, unfair conditions, and people are not getting the credit, respect, and wages that they deserve for their hard labor. And this is something that we are ensuring with our production, that it's completely taking place in the EU. Next to that, we've said no to toxic chemicals. We don't use any synthetic fibers that release microplastics when being washed. There's no plastic coatings on our yarns, which is also normally releasing microplastics. There's no polyester labels, no unethical labor. And to conclude everything, we just don't make any compromises on style, sustainability, or quality. Often we get the question why we think that circularity is the future, and this graph illustrates that quite well. Through implementing the circular design principles and just kind of let's rephrase. By making our supply chain as circular as possible, we are able to produce an honest jeans with only 361 liters of water, which is a reduction of 95% compared to the industry standard. And this graph here shows the breakdown of the resulting water consumption, so the water consumption that we still have as it is today. And here you can see that the majority of that is actually majority of the water consumption is actually directly linked to the 23% virgin cotton that we are still using in our fabric. And you can see here what this graph actually exactly illustrates the importance of the circular economy and the importance of reusing raw materials, of using recycled materials, because it indicates how much water you can save by doing so. Next to that, I've indicated that our jeans emit 76%, less CO2 compared with the industry standard. And this is a breakdown of the remaining carbon emissions footprint that we still have. And here you can see what are our hotspots for the future. So construction, that's the sewing of the garments, and the culling process are still requiring quite a bit of energy, which is also interesting for us because that can create potential programs and projects to decrease that impact even further. Lastly, I would like to close off the session with a couple lessons learned. So producing a circular product and creating a circular supply chain, for us, it has proven to be key to find the right partners. And this is because you will need to do a lot of testing. There will be a lot of trial and error. And here it's important that you have people, companies, and partners alongside of you who are in it as well, and they're motivated and they want to invest time, energy, and resources. So that's really, really essential. Next to that, we've learned that the story is really important, but the product matters even more. For us, people, when they hear our story, they are interested, they are intrigued, but what actually convinces them to buy is the fact that our jeans are beautiful, they are stylish, they're high quality, and they don't look like your traditional classical traditional, let's say, eco-fashion, which still has a bit of a greenish corner to it. Thirdly, there will be hurdles. So the fashion supply chain, the fashion industry is still mainly linear. So when you are going to do things in a circular way, there will be difficulties along the way. And it's very important that you take those difficulties step by step. And next to that, finally, for us, it's most importantly to keep on innovating and to never stop and to always keep on challenging yourself in how you can become more sustainable, more innovative, and more circular. That was our story. Thanks for listening to me. And I'm very curious to hear if you have any questions. Please do let me know and let's start a conversation. You can find my details also here if you would like to reach out later.
Hi, welcome at DenimX. Did you know that each year the enormous amount of 4 billion pair of jeans is produced worldwide? After use, most of these jeans end up in the incineration oven or in a landfill, while a big part of these materials still could be recycled. This is a situation that needs to be stopped and can be stopped. My name is Marc Meijers, and I'm the owner of design agency MMD in Maastricht. Around 10 years ago, I came to a point where I realized that most client-based projects are not ambitious enough in the field of innovation and sustainability. This posed an opportunity to start building a brand of my own that focuses solely on smart upcycling and integrates all knowledge, experience and creativity into outstanding sustainable products. We did a large number of experiments, and in the end there was one combination that stood out. Blue denim combined with a bio-based polymer. The fibers in well-known indigo color were immediately recognizable in the material, which made me realize that the look and feel of this particular composition would tell the story of sustainability by itself. No further explanation is required. Moreover, denim is widely available and recognizable, plus appreciated in almost all market segments. After more than 5 years of research and development, DenimX was founded in 2017, whereas the X stands for the multiplier of the life of materials that can be repurposed in all kinds of new applications. The process that we use can be described by the following graphic. After we discarded our jeans and other textiles, they are being sorted by specialized companies. The garments that cannot be reworn are being selected on type, color and quality, after which they are unraveled by big machineries. All zippers, buttons and other contaminations are being removed. What remains are bales of denim fibers that are mixed with a bio-based polymer. From this, a so-called non-woven is produced, in which the bio-based binder is homogeneously distributed. Then the non-wovens are laminated into hard-pressed panels that can be thermoformed in almost any 3D shape, such as chair seats, body panels or suitcase shells. After assembling these parts into fully finished products, we have created a new circular product and added value to the former textile waste. Since we use recycled and bio-based materials, after its life cycle, we can shred the product and reuse the materials once again. We're often asked, can you make this or that product out of discarded jeans? This may be the biggest challenge for DenimX, since almost any product can be made from upcycled denim. Over the last few years, we have designed and made lifestyle products like chairs, lampshades, cases, placemats, fashion accessories like bags and bracelets, plus specialized products like acoustic panels. And there's much more to come. With my vast experience and knowledge of materials, production technologies, design and engineering, DenimX repurposes discarded textiles into various products by using thermoforming, extrusion or injection molding. The understanding and application of the techniques required, I call our reverse sustainable engineering approach. Here are some examples of the products we have created so far. Now, let's take a look into the business model of DenimX. It largely relies on two pillars. The first as being a consultancy agency and product supplier that helps brands to become more sustainable by offering them products with a clear and convincing sustainable story. For this, we may use a company's own waste stream, as we did with the overstock sports apparel of Nike that we turned into acoustic panels for their offices. Or we may supply them complete or semi-finished products made from recycled waste that helps them communicate the sustainability story. Secondly, DenimX has created a product collection of its own, in which we made all major design decisions autonomically. This product collection was launched last year and is now being sold by our own webshop, denimmagic.com, and soon will also be sold by various retailers and other webshops such as Makers van Maastricht. Let me share with you some tips and tricks. The growing awareness of the enormous environmental problem that we create with overproduction, overconsumption and fast fashion is an opportunity for companies and entrepreneurs that are committed to sustainability. To be honest, when I started development of our material and business approach, I was at least 5 years too early for companies to pick up the idea. So timing is an important issue. Over the recent years, consumers and manufacturers are more and more looking for products and materials with a story that communicates its purpose. It is allowed, appreciated, and sometimes even necessary that materials and finishes are not perfect, but show characteristics that belong to sustainable processes. All steps, small and big, will be required to really make a change. However, if you really want to be part of the big picture and create an impact, you should be aware that this can best be done if you focus on large volumes, widely available waste streams that have a constant quality, and most certainly do not pretend that you can do it on your own. Circular design and development can only be achieved if you're prepared to work together, trust each other, and share information, ideas, and earnings. And make plans for 3 to 5 years besides 3 to 5 months. Circular design requires patience, trial and error, and acceptance of failure, from which you often learn the most. As Thomas Edison put it so brilliantly, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Finally, you need ambition. As far as DenimX is concerned, our ambition is to become the first ever lifestyle brand that offers a design collection of products in various markets and segments with one explicit denominator. They're all made from upcycled jeans. We want to make this concept available for consumers on each continent. My dream is that we prevent products from being shipped all around the world, but we make use of local resources to produce beautiful products, decrease our carbon footprint, and raise the standard of living. That's why the slogan of DenimX is, "Let's brighten our future." Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you to all the speakers for all the inspiring new ideas. We'll now take some time for questions. I'm Eline Jijsels. I'm project manager at POM Limburg, one of the project partners in the Wanderful.stream project. And POM is the Provincial Economic Development Agency of the province of Limburg, and we are very happy to be a partner in Wanderful.stream. So let's take some time to address the questions that popped up in the Q&A box. If you have any other questions, meanwhile, you can always put them in the Q&A box. I will also ask some questions to the speakers. So let's start. Maybe the first question for Tom. You mentioned that there is only a 20% collection rate of textiles. To which area does this figure apply? And could you provide a reference where the figure comes from?
Yes, this is actually a number coming from the report of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So this reference is in the last slide. So this will be shared. The number is worldwide, so an average. And collection rates actually differ a lot between countries, depending on the different systems they have in place. Numbers I found was, for example, in Germany, the collection rate is closer to 75%, but in countries like US and China, it's only 10 or 15% at the time of publication, at least. So the numbers differ. But on average, it's 20%.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Then the next question is for Eva from Honest. Eva, are you considering to make your production process even more local? Now you do it in a European process from Belgium to Germany to Italy to Portugal. And could it be changed, or would it make the jeans too expensive for the customer?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's a really good question. And we notice that very often when we share our story, it's one of the first questions that pops up. So we are very happy and lucky to have already found two of our partners, Kringwinkel and ESG, European Spinning Group in Belgium. So of course, for that, we're very, very happy as well. But the part of the production that we're currently doing in Italy, so the weaving and the confection and laundry that's taking place in Portugal, the partners that we're working with there, they have really specific techniques and innovations available to limit the use of chemicals, to limit the water consumption. And these technologies and innovations are essential to limiting our environmental impact. So currently these elements cannot be moved to Belgium. Maybe in the future this will change if the sustainability or textiles supply chain shifts maybe a bit more back to different regions, but currently it's not possible. So.
Okay, thanks, Eva. Maybe a next question that I have for you. I was very interested by the fact that you mentioned that you are dyeing jeans with electricity. So I'm very curious to know how this works. And if this process is also becoming more common in the sector of sustainability.
Yeah, so traditionally yarns are dyed by using a lot of different baths of water, because indigo pigment is the color pigment that's used for denim. It's actually a very difficult pigment to work with, so it doesn't easily bind to the yarns. So a lot of water is needed and a lot of chemicals as well to first reduce the indigo pigment and then fixate it onto the yarns. And what our weaving partner is doing, they're using an electrochemical process to fixate the pigment onto the yarn without using all the water and chemicals.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not yet a standard in the industry. There's a lot of initiatives popping up. A lot of different initiatives where they're using different techniques to dye. So there's also foam dyeing. There's a lot of different things that are happening. And here it's interesting because comparing those initiatives next to each other, you need, of course, also LCA data or other scientific based data. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to compare those different processes because often the LCA data is not using the same standards to measure the savings or the ecological aspects of these techniques. So that's interesting, and I'm very curious to see how that will evolve also in the future.
Nice. Okay. Another question for you, Eva. Do you also collaborate with other brands, and what are the good practices to keep in mind when you're collaborating with other brands?
Yeah, Yeah, we actually love to collaborate with other brands because for us it's an opportunity to reach new people, to reach new markets as well. We are currently bringing a seasonless collection, so we don't follow the classic fashion agenda. So we don't bring multiple new collections every year, but we have a range of basic models, timeless designs that will be available for a couple of years. So working with another brand or working with an artist or a designer allows us to kind of also for us as a brand, try new things and also experiment with different distribution models, such as, for example, drops or pre-sales, etc. And what's important there for us is to really find for complementary partners in a way that you can both bring something to the collaboration, you can challenge each other. And of course, it's also really essential that you are on the same page. I mean, we are very strict when it comes to sustainability. We have very high standards, and we understand that not all brands or all organizations are at that level yet. But we do think it's very important that the motivation and the drive and the long-term vision is present. So that's really something that we're looking for when we collaborate with others.
Yeah, and Christophe is wondering if you already know DenimX and if you, and vice versa.
Yeah, listening to your story, Marc, I was also like, this is interesting. We should have a conversation, the two of us.
Nice.
We already do know ESG, which is European Spinning Group, Filip Lietaer.
Yeah.
So we spoke about Hack Your Jeans, but we did not reach a cooperation yet. So there's still an opening lying in front of us.
Great. Maybe one last question for you, Eva. You operate from Belgium, but can Honest or the production process can Honest also be based in any other country closer to intermediate steps in Germany, Italy, or Portugal?
Yeah, here I was wondering. I saw the question indeed pop up in the Q&A, and Christophe, I was wondering if you could maybe clarify if you meant if it would be possible to move kind of like our headquarters, or what specific, what specific element you're referring to, because it wasn't entirely.
Christophe he can put it in. What does he keep in Belgium?
What keeps us in Belgium, of course, you do also. I mean, with COVID, we've started working a lot from home, but it's still also really important to have a team that can come together and work together as well. There's it's always an interesting dynamic that is created there. What is something that we could look into for the future is to distribute straight from Portugal to different markets. That is something that could help further reduce our impact or footprint in terms of transport and logistics. But this is something that's on our agenda for the near future, let's say.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Maybe we will go to some questions for Marc. Marc, what is the ambition of DenimX, and to market more of your own products by your own channels, or collaborate more with other companies to supply the DenimX as a semi-finished product?
Yes, thank you, Christophe, for this question. It's a good question, for which I had a few minutes to think about, but I don't have a clear answer yet, due to the fact that both pillars, they influence each other. And sometimes we get requests of a client that may lead to a product that we may sell over our own channels in the end. So you make it made to measure, but still you also can derive, let's say, a commercial version for your own sales. And otherwise, we also do create products that we may offer to be customized towards a client request. For instance, by branding it, putting a logo of the company involved to the product. So there are many possibilities, and I don't see at this point the necessity to make a choice yet. However, the future may lead us to more in one direction or the other.
Okay, thank you, Mike. We also have another question for you. How do you ensure that your products are reintegrated in the circular model of DenimX after the life cycle of the product? And do you try to engage your customers to return the products to DenimX after the life cycle?
Well, for this moment, when we look at our own products that we sell, we offer them the possibility to return them after use. However, we intend or we stimulate our customers to use our products as long as possible. So, and in order to reprocess them again, you will need quite some volume to make it at least economically feasible. Regarding the client's choices, merely it's their issue, but of course we support them to have take back programs, you know, to collect the products after use, and also already in the design process, as the other let's say presenters also promoted, think of solutions to make it easier to recycle. So yes, there's a close collaboration, but still it's a step in the future, since now at this moment we're working with products that were never intended to become circular, and that makes it so difficult to recycle.
Okay. The next question is for Filip. Will the experience with Kringwinkel and the recycled jeans be used in the future? And is there a demand from other clients? And what are the main obstacles for SMEs to start using recycled materials?
Well, first of all, this experience with Kringloopwinkel will definitely be continued. It's a first step, and we will post that on our social media, LinkedIn. We have quite a lot of followers now, and I would say spread the news. There is definitely from the industrial market a real interest into more sustainable and circular solutions. Of course, in our business, workwear, it's not always possible because sometimes we have to make garments according to very high level standards involving flame retardancy, anti-staticity, etc., which is not always easy to achieve, but still a lot of cotton is used nowadays, like t-shirts, sweaters, those kind of products we are aiming for. Second question was, as an SME, how we can handle that? Was it?
Yeah, I had a question that I sent you to through the chat. Yes, my question was, you mentioned that a critical mass is needed to develop the industry of circularity in the textile sector. And are there ways to stimulate the idea of circularity within the customer base? And how would you do this?
Yeah.
And how can you stimulate the creation of a critical mass as an SME or a company?
Well, I heard that item from other speakers also, that we need a critical mass to develop the industry. And of course, as an SME, we don't have that leverage. However, we are one of the voices that can shout in our sector. We have good connections with FableSafe, with Crea Moda, with Fidustria. So these are starting up now with the concepts they have created, like Be Aware, like Rivitex, which is also an interregional concept which has been developed. We have our, ESG has already been mentioned, Julie Lietaer, not family of me, although we have the same family name, and we are neighbors. Almost can see her factory from here, but nevertheless, Utexbel is working very hard on new concepts. Concordia in Waregem is also developing. So I think the industry is ready to develop further in that direction. If we could now get our quarreling politicians on one line, that they make some laws or some directives that companies are obliged to bring their end-of-life workwear to a certain system, which certainly can be created. Look what we have done with Bebat for the batteries, so why not for the clothing? I think if once we can set up this basic volume, technically everybody is ready, but to make it, let's say, profitable concept, we need to have industrial machinery going on. So yeah, that's how I see it. And there's a lot of things, if I compare to 2016 when we first set up our Rivitex, we have now more or less said bye-bye to that, because it's not really 100% sustainable, but it was a start of developing things. So we're moving ahead. Yeah, and CircleTex is definitely a very interesting principle or concept.
Okay, thank you very much, Filip.
I just would like to add to Eva, because the question, no, because we are also in confection, the big question why we cannot make these products on an industrial scale in Belgium is just because we don't have any skilled stitchers anymore. There's no education, whereas maybe the generation before us, there was a big outcome of people who were skilled to stitch. So that's, if we want to bring that industry back to Belgium, we need to start up this technical education again. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Filip. Then some questions for Tanja. Tanja, what stakeholders are you looking for, and what do you expect in terms of input and time? What kind of engagement do you expect from a stakeholder that is interested in taking part in the stakeholder lab?
Yeah, so any input is actually welcome. So there's no hard commitment that we are expecting. Let's say starting with a phone call or an email, like, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing in this project. What are you developing? Because I have my own business on this and this, can we have an exchange? This is, for example, the first simplest input that we can ask for. But then, as I presented, there will be some reports coming out. So reading these reports and feedbacking to us that you may not agree, that you have another idea, that you make us aware of standardization requirements, for example, or that you're involved in any association or industry. Yeah, so there's no hard commitment, and for now any input is welcome. I just noticed that this project Glaukos is far broader than the very important use cases that were presented here, because yeah, Glaukos doesn't have any bio-based polymer yet. We are developing it, so it's really in the design phase, and the design architecture company, how they call themselves, they are looking into the requirements of the end user. So the end user is not necessarily the consumer. For the textile or confectionery industry, of course, as well, they are. But for the fishing gear, it's other companies. In the end, it's the fisher on the ship on the sea that are using the product. Okay, so I hope I could gain some new stakeholders, 4, 5, 6 that I see here now for Glaucost to get in touch with us.
Great. Another question, Tanja, is how will you share the technological reports? How will you share the reports that you mentioned with other stakeholders?
So first of all, on the project website, but we will have an internal database with all the stakeholders. So stakeholders are really, as I said, people from business, people from policy, for example, people from academia and research. Like, they are not only spinning companies, but there are a lot of universities active in spinning and waving and coating. So we will actually address some of these stakeholders directly, sending them some input, some newsletters. So yeah, we hope to really have some active people that you can work with.
Okay, thank you. I see that we already are 7 minutes past 15:30. So maybe one last question regarding Wanderful.stream. In the context of the project Wanderful.stream, do you or your company do you have any residual streams of your own, and where does this challenge lie to make this or your own process to make it even more sustainable? Maybe Eva can start.
I mean, it's a great question. As I indicated also in the end, as one of our lessons learned, it's really an ongoing journey, and it's really important to keep on innovating and staying critical. For us, a big challenge is also greenwashing. I mean, I think it was Filip who already kind of highlighted that issue. I think that's a big challenge for us, and I think what can be a potential solution there, what has a lot of a potential for us as well is legislation and guidelines from government. So I hope really that will change something and maybe even level the playing field, because that's really a growing issue as sustainability becomes more popular also for mainstream brands. Sustainability and circularity, these terms, the vocabulary around it also become more used and also a bit polluted by fashion brands or organizations in general that are not using them in the correct way. So I really think that legislation is utterly needed to level the playing field there. And that's a big challenge for us as a brand.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Marc or Filip, do you have any things to add?
Yes, I follow Eva 100%. When it comes to legislation, if we see all the cheap imports that's coming from Asia, mainly Asia, I think there should be a possibility to have some kind of import law. I don't use the word duty because, I mean, in this country, those countries, the people must also live, but at least they should have a component which, besides durability, sustainability, all these very trendy words, also has a factor of social responsibility. If you, as a European company, you buy something in those countries, then at least you should have it audited socially as well, because if you work with companies in those countries where the people have a living wage instead of a minimal wage, that will definitely increase. And we have the experience because we are a member of Fairware. We pay more, but the quality level is much higher, and these companies also already think sustainable. So I think that's something quite important to also mention, that it's not only durability, sustainability, but also connected to social responsibility.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Completely agree, Filip.
Marc, maybe you have something to add?
Yes, well, we don't have any waste streams of our own, so we only work with what's available in the market, and then we focus on the large volume fractions that are there. So that can be denim, but also, for instance, sports apparel or maybe army uniforms. That is a continuous stream of materials. But for me, the main issue would be how to raise the volume. And legislation is one of the issues to reach that, take away barriers, but also, you know, join forces, connect the right partners and stakeholders in order to become stronger, because we have to challenge that what is, and they always want to maintain what they have. So that's our main challenge for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Marc. So let's round up. Thank you everybody to participate in our Masterclass Textile. I hope it will inspire you to engage more in circular economy principles in the textile sector. Thanks to all the speakers to share your interesting insights. As mentioned before by Sara, the recording will be available on our website to review or to share with your colleagues or partners. And if you're interested in more information and events regarding circularity, you can go and check our website and event pages on Wanderful.stream. I wish you all a very pleasant afternoon and hope you take home plenty of inspiration and new ideas on circular economy. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.